Welcome to Zarnia for Games and Geekery. I'm Adhil. Sometimes you can't get a team together. Sometimes you don't want to play by yourself. Two-player games have got you covered. Today, I am talking about my 5 fave two-player games. Number 5. Jaipur has to be the perfect two-player game. It's got a really small footprint, amazing art, and lots of camels. That's a plus, right? So this game is very quick to the table, not a lot of rules overhead, super easy to teach. It feels like a really intense race with your opponent. You're buying and selling gems. The gameplay itself really pushes you to try and understand what your opponent's going for and to try and maybe beat them to that or go in a totally different direction. Really compelling two-player game. Number 4, Santorini. This game really has some table presence. It's got components that you never see in other games. Really chunky. The game just pops. You've got a massive 3D effect. At the same time, extremely simple gameplay. But it's so frustrating. You know where you want to go, but so does your opponent. You're trying to get to the top, but if you do, you win the game, so they're going to stop you. You know what I mean? This is a truly fantastic two-player game. Number 3. Patchwork is the granddaddy of the Uwe puzzle games. It's the one that he made while he was making Feast for Odin, which everybody knows is my favorite game. This game has really stood up over the last few years. It has an amazing economy with using buttons and time. The balance of those two really makes the game extremely compelling. And Patchwork is a really cozy game in that you can't mess with your opponent all that much. There's not a huge amount of interactivity, but in a really good way. So you can play it at multiple different levels as well. If you're wanting to make a beautiful quilt, go ahead and do it. But if you really want to be strategic about it and trying to maximize your score versus your opponent, you can do that too. It's quite tough to master, so your first time you might end up with negative points. You're immediately going to want to play again. Number 2. Caesar in 20 minutes. It packs a lot into a really small footprint, quite a small box. Set in Roman times, usually you find games like that end up taking a huge long time and they're quite tedious. This one really doesn't outstay its welcome. And it's actually quite complex. You know what you're doing, you know what your opponent's doing, but the area control is kind of tricky. There are little aspects that are kind of hidden from each player. You're never quite sure how it's going to all play out. I found it extremely compelling. Number 1. The last game that I wanted to talk about is called Fox in the Forest. This is a trick-taking game, which is something that you might not expect from a two-player game. It's really well done, and the way the scoring works is genius. You are trying to either get no tricks at all, or to get most tricks but not all the tricks. So it's kind of interesting that you're incentivized to try and not take anything up front, but then once you start taking tricks, you have to take as many as you can. It's a very interesting take on trick taking. This game is a true classic, a real two-player mainstay. So there you have it, my 5 fave two-player games. Which of these have you played? And do you have any picks for me that I haven't tried yet? Tell us in the comments below, like, subscribe, and please share. See you next time on Zarnia for Games and Geekery.